Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tech News this week. Now, if you look at this week's news for startups, you'll find it's a great week. Unicorns doing well, and mergers and acquisitions, and funding is coming, and all. In fact, there's nothing to go over because if you look at 2021, then almost every week of this year has been great for startups. So that's why probably you can call 2021 as the year of the Indian startup. So it's like, if you go back, time was, I mean, the startup culture is not that old. And in India it was like, it's barely 10 years old. So at the beginning of it, you would like hear news. I remember you'd hear news like there's one unicorn a year. Then slowly you had multiple unicorns in a year. And if you look at 2020, though COVID was a bad year for India and for the economy and all, it was a good year for tech. And we had close to 10 unicorns in 2020. Now you just let's look at 2021, right? We are in August, and they've already crossed 20 unicorns. So it's like, there was a time how much unicorns, like if you go back to 2010 to 2015, the number of unicorns probably you used to have in 5 years, now you are having more than that in 6 7 months. So that is how well the Indian startup industry is doing. It's not just unicorns. Say you look at total funding. So if you look at year by year funding that the Indian startups have received, then again we are in August, we have like 4 months, 4 5 months to go. And already the funding has been matched, or if you look later, it has been overtaken from 2020 figures. So 2021 is already overtaken 2020 figures. Then you go by another metric, like in today's corporate world, it's mergers and acquisitions. That is what defines it. So if you look at M&As, then there have been more than 100 deals that involve Indian startups. And again, the amount of money that has, if you count, is again three times what it was in 2021. It's three times more than what it was in 2020. So we are already in August, and if you shut shop now, it is already the greatest year for Indian startups. So we will see what happens in the remaining 4 5 months. It's going to be a record breaking year, and at the end of it, you'll have to declare it. Now, also a true metric is, if you look like from the Y2K crisis happened in 99 2000, and we became an IT services superpower. And that time you had the IT services, all blockbuster companies, TCS, Wipro, Infosys, Cognizant, and all. So software professionals would prefer there. But now if you look at the latest trends, then the softies that are coming out, rather than work from these big companies, they would work for startups. Now that culture is already there in all other countries in the West, in the US, that young people would rather work for startups. But it is happening in a much greater thing in India, because now softies would rather work in startups, and they're getting money also, and the startups are growing also. you know there are a myriad of startups mushrooming all over India. Now, another reason why it's the year of the Indian startup is because China is now slowing down. So there are two aspects to the China story. One is, if you look at startups, the funding has gone down. Like if you look at quarter to quarter, last quarter, I think 18% there was less funding. So while the Indian funding is doubling, tripling, the Chinese funding has. So maybe now we have finally a chance to catch up, because if you look at the big three of the startup ecosystem, then US and China are way ahead. India is a distant third, but we could probably make it. It could be our moment to catch up. And also, if you see, the Chinese government is now cracking down on big tech. They're stopping IPOs. Founders and CEOs are having to step down. So it's not going to end well for them. So this definitely could be India's moment. Let's see what happens. Now, another hot topic is, the electric scooters. Now, if you look at the electric car market in India, it's going to struggle. I mean, I don't see electric cars doing that well, no matter what legislation you bring, because our charging infrastructure is very woeful. Even like a Tesla comes, it's coming for 25 lakhs. And another, say, attraction of Tesla is their, the autopilot, which is close to the, which is close to one step behind driverless cars. I don't see an autopilot working with the chaotic Indian road conditions. You look at the roads, bullock carts, bullocks, the cows, and auto rickshaws. But one thing that can take off is scooters. So right now, August 15th is the launch of the Ola electric scooter, and they have created a buzz. And again, compared to electric cars, if you look at an electric scooter, it takes less time to charge, it takes less charging space, so it won't be as much a bother as an electric car. And in fact, Ola Electric has got a lot of things right. They created the buzz, and for a small booking amount, you could book even if you're not planning to buy. They had like 1 lakh bookings within 24 hours. Then this interestingly, this came from 1,000 cities and towns, B town cities. If you combine, Ola claims that it came from 1,000 cities, and also it's going to be available in 10 colors. So you're going to have the scooter in 10 colors. That will be interesting. In fact, Ola is setting up a charger network, and they're targeting a whopping 10 million electric scooters a year. I mean, that seems like a huge task. But if you get your marketing, if you get your main is charging ecosystem, if you get the charging ecosystem right, then maybe you could get millions of electric scooters a year. Of course, if the charging ecosystem falls flat, then the whole project will fall flat. But they are putting their money where their mouth is. Then they have a mega factory in Tamil Nadu. They have seen space in Bangalore, so they have the ambition. Let's see whether they can pull it off. As you must be knowing, we already have Ather electric scooters, and even Hero Motocorp is also entering. So you could have a wide field of electric scooters from choose from. Recently, one of the Ether founders said that they're looking at a charging ecosystem which will support multiple players. So that also would be a good thing. Worldwide also, there are a lot of innovations relating to electric scooters. So for example, Hummingbird has come out with the lightest folding electric bike. So basically, you can go somewhere, you can fold it, and you can take it in a bus. So these are the kind of innovations. We don't know which of them will come in handy, but it's good that they're trying all these innovations. Now on to Chippagedon, or the shortage of chips. So Chippagedon has hit India. Maruti has said their Gujarat plant that they are facing a shortage of chips, and one particular model they have talked of, Maruti Desire, is going to slow down because of that. In fact, globally, now there is talk of chips slowing down so much that from the order to delivery, it's taking more than 20 weeks. To put this in context, the average time is 12 to 15 weeks, and it's been years since any chip manufacturer, sorry, any player had to wait 20 weeks, more than 20 weeks for a chips. For microcontrollers and logic chips, it is more than 25 weeks. In fact, as the Indian government is pushing the Atmanirbhar scheme, they are planning it for everything, for hardware, software, OEM, electronics. They are also planning it for chips, and the Tatas are planning to get into the semiconductor business and seem to have hired a senior Intel executive for the same. Of course, it's not easy, setting up chip plants or fabs. It's a very long process. It takes years. So I mean, if there is a shortage now, it will last for a couple of years. But yeah, if so many players are planning to ramp up, and if you are going to have, like, companies like the Tatas, hopefully by in the second half of this decade, you won't have these problems. Now, Amazon India has ended its 7-year partnership with Cloudtail with the Catamaran Group. Now, what is that? And to put things in perspective, you can just look at their company statement. The company statement says that Cloudtail enabled over 300,000 sellers and entrepreneurs to go online and enabled 4 million merchants with digital payment capabilities. But now this will officially end in May 2022. In fact, Catamaran was launched by Infosys founder Narayan Murthy. Now, you will be wondering, if it's so successful, why it is being shut down. That's because this deal will likely face heat with the Indian government's new regulatory and antitrust guidelines for e-commerce. The US is planning a big crackdown on big tech. So far, nothing has happened. EU has levied fines. Now, even the Indian government has woken up. So e-commerce players may have to change a little in the way they operate. Then in other news, same related to what I said of big governments cracking down, the US Senate is introducing the Open App Markets Act, which, if implemented, would end the dominance of the Google and Apple stores. So let's see whether they can push through. So, and also looking at the dangers of online money and cryptocurrency, hackers siphoned off more than $600 million. That's more than $500 million from the Chinese Poly network. There is some confusion. Someone said it was, to test their security hacks and all, but I mean, you can't just like steal $600 million to check a security flaw. But interestingly, they have returned $260 million so far. Whether they'll return the remaining money or keep it, and how this plans out, will be very great from the point of view of digital money, cryptocurrency policy, and also the policing. How you are going to crack down on such things. Finally, the IBM Personal Computer Model 5150 was released on August 12, 1982. Of course, it was not called that. Finally, it was just called the IBM PC. It was the first, IBM PC, and the first of its kind, and it's been 40 years since that invent. In fact, around 10 years later, they came out with the much popular IBM ThinkPad. That also was very long lasting, and you had the Lenovo ThinkPad when they took it over. But of course, IBM exited from both the PCs and laptops as big tech continues to evolve. So, on that note, I'll end this editions of Tech News, and everyone have a great evening and a great weekend. Bye.